And so the inevitable did happen. Australia needed maybe perhaps less than an hour or around an hour to wrap up the second test match of the Border Gavaskar Trophy, win very, very comfortably by 10 wickets. Just to recap the scores, India were 180 all out in the first innings. Australia posted a comfortable 337. India in the second innings managed only 175s, and Australia needed 19 runs, which they did without really having to do a lot. This is the last episode of the second test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy special. I say last episode for the second test very specifically because we'll be back for the third, and today there'll be plenty to rant about. Vinayakk Monarangan is with me, Mihir Vasavda, and so is Venkata Krishna B. Vinayakk, Venkat, there's so much to talk about, but I think there's only one starting point because the captaincy is something that we spoke a lot about, Vinayak, yesterday, and Rohit was there facing the questions from the media after the test match, and his analysis was pretty revealing, saying that batting was the difference between the two teams. Very, very investigative and very insightful quote that by Rohit. Batting was the difference, I think, between the two captains as well, I guess. We'll start with Rohit as a captain, as a batsman, not getting runs. And
for the record, for those listening, I think Mihir is being completely #S, as the kids these days say, sarcastic when he says it was insightful. Just before we came on to record this podcast, I listened to the press conference again. It was a 16-minute video, and I saw it live on Hotstar as well when it was aired. Genuinely, at the end of the press conference, I came out wondering, did we actually learn anything from these last 20 minutes? And I can't put my finger on... at some level, I understand that the captain is not supposed to come out and just bear it all. In a press conference, he's going to be guarded, especially after a defeat like this. And typically, we have come to not expect great insights from press conferences. But still, I felt that it was just maybe, apart from the Shami update, it felt like just 17, 18 minutes of saying the most obvious things. And this is not to, criticize Rohit Sharma for saying the obvious things, because, it's kind of what we're used to now. But it also pointed to the fact that, do we really know what's bothering the Indian cricket team, especially from the batting side? He keeps saying, we have our plans, we keep discussing, the players have to take responsibility. And if you go back to the New Zealand series, it's probably the same that we heard from Rohit and Gambhir.
Yeah.
It's kind of repetitive right now. The only good batting innings in the last 5 test matches that India have played has come in Perth when the conditions eased out considerably. That's not a coincidence. Now we know that. Not taking anything from Jaiswal and Rahul and Kohli, but it was not the most challenging conditions. We have to be very honest there. That's the only good batting performance that we've seen in the last 5 matches from India, 5 test matches. So something has to be done. I don't know if they have the answers. I don't know if we have the answers. So yeah, interesting few days ahead before Brisbane.
Venkat, we should also make it clear that, there is this whole tendency of overreacting to a test match defeat, and you win some, you lose some. Adelaide wasn't India's best outing, as was the case the last time around when India lost miserably and then came back very strongly in Melbourne to win that test match. So who knows what happens in Brisbane. But we're talking about a very specific problem that's been a pattern now with Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, and the two faces of this team. Focusing especially on Rohit Sharma, because Harbhajan Singh made a very interesting point on Star Sports, apart from his whole... I think that was a very cringe interview with Mohammad Siraj, but we'll maybe talk about that today. Later on, we'll see, depending on time. Rohit Sharma, 3 and 6, the scores in 2 innings. Harbhajan said that his batting slump is affecting his captaincy as well, and he's not able to perform both roles the way he should be. Those are actually interrelated, Venkat, aren't they?
Definitely, Mihir, because if you look at it, the end of the last series that Rohit Sharma captained against New Zealand, he in the press conference, he admitted that he was not at his best as a batsman as well as a captain. That is a startling revelation, isn't it? Because, captaincy, it's a very difficult job, especially in Indian cricket. And then you have to be, for somebody who has been credited as being tactically very strong. The last 4 test matches, Rohit Sharma hasn't been the captaincy-wise, he hasn't been at his best at all. Yes, he spoke about at length during today's press conference as to how he cannot keep bowling Jasprit Bumrah and he has to manage his workload, same as Siraj and stuff. But there were points in the game, especially on day 2, where when Head was the game was still in India could have just sort of had an opportunity cut short Australia's lead, but that didn't happen at all. Yes, Bumrah was not available to bowl, but some of the field placings and then the using of the bowlers, especially you have Ashwin bowling one from one end. You'd ideally have another one attacking from the other end, but that didn't happen. You had Harshit Rana, Nitish Reddy bowling at various times. And then just look at the way he had ran away with the game once Australia took that lead. He just ran away with the thing. It was from 1-2 run lead, just went to 80, 90, just kept swelling. And then from there on, it was just it was pretty obvious that India were going to be out-batted by Australia and outplayed in this test. But there are certain things that I keep repeating. As a captain, I don't think Rohit Sharma is in a sort of space there where he's able to just think about the tactics. The thing is, in Australia, if you look at it, the Australian cricket teams, right from the 90s or whatever, they tend to target the opposition captains. You have seen many Ashes captains struggle because even before they land, you start Glenn McGrath, Shane Warne just saying you're going to make my target. And then they'll just walk the talk. And Rohit Sharma, for somebody who has never had a good series in Australia, this is probably his last attempt over there. He goes there full of sort of hope, but he's already got there struggling for runs. And what happens if after this 2 innings, the pressure is just going to pile up? Because once he's not in good frame of mind in terms of he has to think about his batting, he has to think about his own game. Now, does it help him thinking about the tactics and stuff? It's very tough to say from outside, but it can have a bearing, right? So in terms of that, it's not the ideal situation where India would prefer Rohit Sharma to be. Because we talk about Ganguly's knock in Brisbane. Come on. All of us will know that was not one of the best knocks. We speak about that now because it set the tone. It showed that other batters are way okay. And then the confidence, yes, we can punch above our weight. And then Dravid, Lakshman, Tendulkar, everyone had a good series. So in that sense, Kohli has dictated that pace in the previous tour. So for an Indian captain to do that in Australia, it's very, very important. That's where I think Rohit is sort of letting down a bit because India, we definitely worried about Rohit Sharma's form over here.
I was just going through some reports online and I stumbled upon this quote by Sunil Gavaskar. I can't exactly trace where he said it, but it's on a couple of, in fact, plenty of websites where he's saying that about Rohit Sharma's foot movement. He's saying that his feet aren't moving as they should. He needs to do a little bit of exercise before coming to the crease and try to get some circulation going in the legs. The dismissals in both innings were pretty similar, so I guess that's where Sunil Gavaskar's advice comes from. And we discussed yesterday, Vinayak, about Rohit just not seeming up to the mark. I mean, we don't want to make this only about Rohit because there are bigger, wider problems. But like Venkat said, the captain has to be really on the mark, especially at a place like Australia where the opposition is just waiting for you to target them.
Yeah, one of the things that startled me during the press conference was actually the fact that Rohit thought that India were 30-40 runs short in the first innings. I mean, you scored 180, right? Do you really think 220 was enough to win this match after winning the toss and batting first? That kind of boggles my mind when I think about it. If that is the bar that you're setting for yourself, then you're going to end up at 180, 170. And so this is what, except that Perth in second innings, it's been 150, 175 and 180 in 3 innings. And in the Perth test, in the Adelaide test, 2 innings combined, they've not batted 90 overs. This is all pointing towards a longer malaise, which I'm not sure if the team is understanding that, it's just not, okay, one off. How many one-offs can you take?
Yeah.
The mitigating circumstance in this case is, of course, the pink ball. To be fair to Rohit, he didn't offer that up as an excuse. He said, we know that when we come to Australia, we play a pink ball test. That's not an excuse, but it's not something they play often enough. So there is that mitigating factor here, but still not batting 90 overs, a day's worth of overs across 2 innings not sure quite pink ball excuses that. Just an example of what Australia did.
Vinayak, no, but pink ball can't be an excuse, right? We saw what happened against New Zealand at home.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. So, if they can't bat 90 overs across 2 innings, then you have to, where do you begin to investigate is what I don't understand. Immediately after the match, there were calls for Rohit to come back and open, which oddly enough, as our teammate Lalit Kalidas pointed out, Ravi Shastri said Rohit must open now in his booming voice on the commentary apparently. And earlier in the test, he said it's the right thing for Rohit to bat in the middle order. So I don't know if anyone knows what the right thing is. I honestly think Rohit batting in the middle order didn't make that much of a difference because at this moment, he looks like a walking wicket with, no disrespect. So, if you want your opening stand to be a little stable. I don't know if Rohit is the right option, especially given his struggle against slight movement off the deck. We've seen the dismissals. It's either hitting the top of off or hitting him on the pads and getting trapped plumb in front. That just good length delivery that moves either way is causing him a lot of trouble. So I don't know if opening is the right answer. So I think we've spent 10 minutes talking about Rohit. So probably good to move on from here.
If you were to kind of, clutch on to some positives from this test match, I think one of the positives for me was Nitish Reddy. Both innings, he looked quite solid when everyone else struggled. Stupid shots to get out on both occasions, but still, brave selection call, well rewarded. Venkat?
Yeah, definitely, Mihir. It's been a brave selection call, and then especially full credit to him how he has batted in the middle. He hasn't looked totally overawed by the conditions or per se, and then he has taken his chances. Let's be honest, he has pulled off some outrageous shots as well. I'm just waiting to see how Nitish applies himself and plays a knock that can sort of take India to a bigger sort of a thing. In the sense on both Perth and Adelaide, the conditions have been bowler friendly, and then that has helped him to take his chances. So nobody's going to hold the gun and say hey, you can't play this way, man, come on. But going forward, if the condition is, it's going to be he needs to show that okay, I can play the waiting game as well. Because right now, let me tell you, the batting is all of us will admit it's a big cause of concern, and then he's one of those guys who looks in total confidence. Not even Rishabh Pant has come across as confident as Nitish Reddy when it comes to putting out some daring shots. So that says something, isn't it? For a youngster on maiden tour to play that sort of knock against the Australian Quakes is never going to be easy. So full credit to him. And I'm just waiting to see how he will plays, whether he can pace himself into a long innings going forward in the series.
Vinayakk, the batting conditions you'd expect will kind of get comfortable for India going forward, at least in the next two matches. Brisbane was a happy hunting ground in the last series in 2021 when India played there. Big 300 plus scores in both innings combined for India. Again, in Melbourne, it was quite comfortable batting generally has been for India. So this would be a nice opportunity for the batsmen to get into some runs. At the same time, then you'd hope that, the bowling comes good for everything to kind of, for all the stars to align for India. You were joking at the start of this episode before we were just, before we started, in fact, that how India's had the foresight to get 2 extra days of rest before the Brisbane test so that, they can get into the zone properly and forget this nightmare of a test match.
Yeah, so when we saw the schedule, we kind of worried that, it was Perth and Adelaide to start off, two of probably the toughest propositions from an Indian point of view. So the Perth win was a bonus. And I would say if, anyone had to predict one sure shot defeat for India across the series, it would have been the pink ball test in Adelaide. So in that sense, if the team management, I'm guessing this is how the team management will approach this, take the good things from Perth, but forget Adelaide. And now it's a 3-match series, right? It's as simple as that. Red ball again. 3 venues where India have recent record as well. Melbourne, like you said, and Gabba last time. And Sydney is, once again, probably the closest to Indian conditions that you'll get in Australia, so to speak. So in that sense, it's probably not all doom and gloom. The batting is a concern. The bowling is probably a bigger concern for me at this point, going into slightly more run-scoring pitches. If Bumrah's groin issue gives him any amount of difficulty, then I don't know where India will go, because it looks like the Shami arrival might be delayed, just going by what Rohit was saying today, because apparently every time, recently when he played in the domestic cricket, he had a swelling in his knees again after bowling. So I don't know if that makes him test match ready, and he clearly mentioned that if he is not fully fit enough, you're not going to play him just for the sake of playing. So if Shami doesn't arrive and if you have the same bowling lineup for the Gabba match and Melbourne and all that, it's probably a little more concerning at this point of time for me. So that's looking forward. But I think, it's not all doom and gloom, I think, is what I think the takeaway would be for India. If they can just reiterate to themselves, we can do well in Gabba, we can do well in Melbourne, we can do well in Sydney. So I think that's probably the message that Rohit would be giving his teammates.
Right, and before we wrap today's episode and wrap the analysis for the second test match of this series, I think we must address the stupid thing that was there between Siraj and Travis Head. We've discussed how people are turning cricket into this game of sissies. Slightest of reactions by any players and everyone's up in the arms, and that whole stupidity of cricket being a gentleman's game and everything comes across. They hugged it out at the end, apparently. We didn't see the visuals, but that's what Sriram Veera and the others on the ground have been saying. Venkat, what do you make of this whole thing? Totally unnecessary, or was there something more to it? I mean, if you go by the Day 3 morning interview between Harbhajan and Siraj, there was a lot to it. Thankfully, Rohit didn't add fuel to the fire and he calmed down the situation. But uncalled for, I thought. Do you share that opinion, or do you feel Siraj or Travis Head, one of them, was right in doing what they did?
I mean, there's no right or wrong over here. I mean, we all would have loved the series to spice up a little more, I believe. See, whatever said and done, India-Australia has been a standout series in the past 2 decades. It's bigger than the Ashes in terms of contest, in terms of rivalry and all that goes on the field, right? But last 2-3 series, we haven't had that sort of a thing. It's been all quiet, just about cricket. So somewhere you had this sort of a spark coming out. Okay, come on. It's going to heat up in the middle. It's going to add to the drama. But again, now we are everybody has decided, okay, let's stop this, man. Let's move on. I mean, an India-Australia series without all of it, all this drama and masala, it doesn't feel like an India-Australia series. Come on, little bit, spice it up. We can just wake up.
You are wanting Big Boss ka ghar in Perth or Adelaide or Brisbane, and these guys are...
And also, there's nothing. This Siraj, just send-offs, man. Send-offs or send-offs. It's just move on. There is nothing to, yes. And you had Head give something. Siraj should have just lashed onto it and made something bigger, but then it turned into a little cringe. But yeah, it was, these guys should learn. See, I'll tell you, we all keep saying that these guys don't know to bat like the previous generation. These guys don't know to sledge like the previous generation as well. They should know a thing or two.
That's true.
Yeah, about how to spice up the contest.
We'll see the next 5 days if there is any more drama, or we'll enter Brisbane as good boys, all of them. But that's it, I guess, for the second test match of the series as well. It's all leveled. 5 days of break before we return for the third test match in Brisbane. We'll be back with the preview episode for the Border Gavaskar Trophy series as well. Until then, we'll take your leave, and hopefully next week will be double episode with cricket and chess, where Gukesh seems to be well in control of his fate right now. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.